I'm going to call on Steve again, our DWG consultant and author, to help us really kind of process some of this 2 days of discussion and really rich conversations about the digital employee experience. So, Steve, what are your takeaways as you're looking across this?
Okay, well, I've actually got a slide I can share, but I'll get going. Actually, I can't share. I don't think I've been given the rights, but I'll just talk through the issues. So they were kind of like, I mean, there's a lot to take away. So my mind is quite overloaded. But I had sort of 4 takeaways from yesterday and 4 takeaways from today, and I'll just go through the ones I had from yesterday first. So the first observation was that this is the age of employee experience. The digital workplace is playing a kind of significant role in that age of employee experience. So, you know, we talked a lot about, you know, Kevin talked us through these different eras of work and talked about the age of employee experience. And just so much of what we're doing, I think, and the way the platforms have evolved and the kind of ethos that we've looked at is it's centering around employees and their needs. And I think if anything, COVID has sort of turned up that dial in a way. You know, it's turned up the importance of empathy and taking a more kind of employee-centric way of things. So I think that kind of set the tone for a lot of the other more specific points that we've explored over these 2 days.
Yeah, you should be able to share now, Steve. And
okay.
I think that is a really important one. And we talked about it a little bit in the overtime. So those of you who joined us for overtime yesterday, Steve shared the key points from day 1. And in terms of, we will have the overtime immediately after this for anybody who wants to stay and talk some more. We'll be here. If you're done, that's fine. You don't have to. It's optional. But go ahead, Steve. Tell us, why don't you sort of quickly summarize the first ones from yesterday, and then let's get to today.
Okay, so the second one is an issue. It's about tool proliferation. You know, this is having a real significant negative impact on digital employee experience. It's creating confusion, fragmentation, and overload. And what we need is some kind of governance. And obviously, that's easier said than done. But I think it was a problem. Too many tools, too many overlapping functionalities, too many complicated tools. I think that, you know, something that resonates with all of us. And I think then we kind of started to talk about how do we combat that? How do we produce better DEX? So some of the themes I think that came up, particularly in the practitioners sessions from Neil and co, was, you know, talking about senior management engagement and a product management mindset can really help sort of drive DEX. To me, it's about, you know, having the right conversations, opening up the making it easier to manage products and have a bit of a longer term view of managing these kind of, especially these sort of cloud-based platforms. Another thing I think was really interesting was when we started talking about, you know, Steve Krug and Don't Make Me Think and the kind of features that employees actually want. Actually, employees just want to get things done. And for us, our job, a lot of it is about removing those barriers and the effort we need to go through. I think it's just, to me, that's a recurring kind of theme that kept on getting revisited. You know, it's not rocket science in terms of just, you know, that needs to be our kind of focus, and that is, you know, people are busy, they need to get things done during the working day. So that's what I came away with day 1, and we explored those a little bit in the overtime session yesterday. So today, again, I think, you know, those themes are sort of echoed again. But the thing that kept on coming up, and I think today it's been more around this, perhaps more a little bit around some of the pragmatics, again, how you make this happen. And, you know, organizations need to start by bringing together a cross-functional team. And this is just, I think it's really key, because often, you know, particularly when we're looking at intranets, you know, maybe that's owned by comms, maybe you're working with IT, but the digital workplace and the digital employee experience, it just spans, the scope is just so much wider. And we're never going to get off the ground unless we have a kind of consensus in terms of a strategic view, or, you know, involving at least HR, IT, different lines of business, obviously communications and leadership, but also we need to make that operational as well. So we need to, operational teams need to start working kind of together, because the digital employee experience is bigger than the remit of any one of any one sort of organization.
Yeah, we certainly heard that. It's that struggle of, okay, I see this, but it really takes many more people than me to be able to make this happen. So I think it's a good point. What else have you heard?
Well, there's another thing is we've talked a lot about experience layers. So, obviously both from WorkGrid and Beezy, and they kind of fulfill that role. I remember, I think in Dion's infographic, we had that kind of employee experience platform, that kind of experience layer as well. And it's difficult, but I think what we're seeing is it's kind of achievable now, because these platforms are coming, and WorkGrid, and both WorkGrid and Beezy are examples of those, where actually you can start to, particularly if you're using microservices and using APIs, you can start to plug in more of these tools into that kind of experience layer. So it's no longer aspirational. It's achievable. I think we've probably still got quite a long way to go. But I think we can perhaps aim a bit higher now and look at creating digital experiences that really are going to align with that employee experience of wanting things which are being able to get things done and one place to go, etc.
Good point.
And then I thought this was an interesting point. This was particularly from Max's presentation. This idea of intelligence being the new frontier of the digital workplace. We see it in some of the approaches that both WorkGrid and Beezy are doing, and Microsoft with their Project Cortex. This is exciting stuff, and it's what's interesting for me. It's taking elements of intelligence and making it kind of into something that's kind of tangible and real. So like the auto tagging, as you said, it's been a nightmare for ages, but by doing it in a more intelligent way and having some human input into it, we get this idea of again of better tools trumping the kind of new tools. We don't necessarily want new and shiny. We want the new shiny should be things that actually work really, really effectively and have a kind of real world difference. So I'm that. Looking at some of the ways these tools are evolving, that makes me feel sort of quite optimistic. And I think the final one was just looking at the more practical things which we explored at the end. I really like some of the insights that came up there. It's about starting conversations. I love that phrase, find your story. What's the one thing that's really going to resonate? Gathering data is a great way. The data is part of the story. Doing the research. This is the evidence. This is what's happening, and then formalizing those next steps, turning that into a kind of strategy, turning it into a cross-functional group, turning it into some kind of governance structure. And I think everyone's doing it at a different pace. It's going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But I think it's about doing something. And I hope people who've been at the lab for the last 2 days feel inspired to go and make that first step next step in doing something around improving digital employee experience.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve. Really appreciate the way you summarize for us and pull the key points out. I think it's a really helpful note to close on. So we have indeed covered a lot of ground on our journey to explore the digital employee experience. We can't thank you all enough for participating so fully in this technology lab. Special thanks indeed to our speakers and our sponsors who shared their experience and expertise so generously. Finally, to all the members of the DWG team who worked so hard to prepare and deliver this experience. Really, really appreciate all of the contributions. So these labs are experimental. We truly want your feedback afterwards. We will send out a link to a survey. We really will pay attention to what you share with us there. So please do tell us what you liked, what worked, what didn't work. What ideas do you have that we haven't thought of? We are looking to continue to evolve these events based on the feedback we get. So with that, this technology lab is officially ended and our optional overtime has begun. So please feel free to drop off the call. No obligation to stay, but if you'd like to remain for additional informal discussion and Q&A, we'll be here. So I'll turn it over to you, Nicole, to just sort of get us started with the overtime while we see how many are left and who drops off?